Yo, what's good? Big Z here, and today I'm going to do a little Q&A answering your guys' questions. If I don't get to your question, make sure to ask it below, and I'll try to answer every single question in the comments. I hope everyone is staying safe out there. I've been on lockdown, quarantine mode for like 2 weeks now. I don't think you guys have ever seen this side of my setup though, so I'll go ahead and show you the equipment I use. It's a really basic setup, but I like to keep it that way, so I'll go ahead and show you that. So here's my setup right here. I've got these Yamaha HS8 monitors. They're awesome. I also have the Yamaha sub that goes with them. They sound really good. Out this window you can see the Philly skyline right here. It's a little cloudy. You can't really see most of the buildings right now. But yeah, I like to keep all my producing in the box. So I just have this little mini Korg MIDI keyboard right here. I've got a Focusrite audio interface down there along with an external hard drive to back up all my stuff. And that audio interface is for this microphone over here, so I can record little vocal ideas for singers. I've got these Shure 1540 headphones right here. I'll link all this stuff below so you can check it out. I really love those headphones, they're really nice. But yeah, my setup is super basic. I pretty much do everything in the box, so that's pretty much all there is to see with that. Alright, let's get to some of your guys' questions now. I saved them all on my phone right here. First question from Daniel: how did you sign with Strange Fruits? So, the guy that started Strange Fruits, Stef van Voot, I believe I'm pronouncing his last name right. He's a Dutch guy. He lives in the Netherlands. We were talking before he even started his record label. We both liked each other's music. You may know him as Steve Boyd. But we were talking, and then he was like, hey, I'm starting this new record label called Strange Fruits. And I believe I was one of the first releases ever on the record label. So I've been there since the beginning. I think they've been in business for like 3 years now. So ever since they opened, I've been releasing all my music with them. I like releasing my music on a more indie label like that because they really don't control my music in any way. Like, I make whatever I want, I send it to him, and he usually likes it and is like, yeah, let's release this. So really gives me the freedom to do what I want. Don't get caught in the trap of saying I have to sign with a major record label to be successful. That's not true. What would you say is the most important aspect of an electronic dance music track? I think the most important thing is just to have one really unique thing about your track. Whether that's the melody or a certain sound you use, or the vocal chops or the lead sound. Just have one really unique thing in each track that makes it stand out and makes it memorable. So Jim here asks, what do you think of Logic's stock plugins in comparison to third-party plugins? I think when you're just starting out, you should just work with the stock plugins and get good at them, because you really won't need the third-party plugins yet. But once you advance as a producer, I think you should get comfortable with some third-party plugins. One of the biggest misconceptions, though, is that you need to buy a ton of third-party plugins to make your mixes and your tracks sound good. That's not true. You really just need one really good third-party plugin in each category and get really good at that one plugin. I did a whole video on this that you can check out, but I recommend getting like one really good reverb you like, one really good compressor you like one main synth that you like a lot, obviously minus Serum. But if you just keep your plugins to a minimum, then you can get really good at the plugins you have, and you'll actually become a better producer that way, instead of having like a million different plugins and barely knowing how to use any of them. Alright, we got a couple different questions here. How to finish tracks, tips on getting your first record deal. I touched on that. Where to find good vocals other than Splice. This one was asked a lot. So how to finish tracks, you really just gotta force yourself to do it. You just gotta force yourself to finish the song. Even if you're not thinking it sounds that good and you're kind of running out of motivation, just say, I have to finish this track no matter what. No matter if I hate it. It's really just about having discipline. As for the other question, where to find good vocals other than Splice, I would really recommend going on SoundCloud and finding vocalists to work with. They don't have to be big singers. There are plenty of super talented singers out there that don't have a big following yet that you can find on SoundCloud. Like, go through a bunch of tracks. It'll always say featuring this singer or that singer. Go to their profile. Make sure they don't have too big of a following, and reach out to them, send them some of your demos, and see if they'd be interested in writing something and recording something on one of your tracks. That's how I've found the majority of singers on my tracks. I've just reached out to them, cold emails, because I like their voice, and seeing if they want to work with me. Joseph asked, did you design some of the presets and sounds of the Spinnin packs on Splice? So yeah, I have been working with Spinnin Records a bit actually, and I did make 3 sample packs for them. I made a Future House one, I made a Big Room one, and I also made a Bass House one. So those 3 packs I made the sounds in and presets in if you want to check them out on Splice. Here's another one that was asked a few different times. How do you usually start a project when you have no idea? You don't need to wait for some kind of inspiration to like randomly strike you to start a song. You just need to sit down and start doing something. It doesn't matter what you do, like start playing some chords on the keyboard, or start messing around with a synth sound, or just go through some presets or loops. It doesn't matter what you do, just start doing something. And eventually you'll get some ideas in your head on how you can expand on that initial thought or sound or melody or whatever you come up with, and then you'll start to build a track around that. I know that seems like really obvious advice, but you just gotta sit down and start doing something and make sure you have fun with it too. If you're really frustrated and in a pissed off mood and not having any fun at all, then you're probably not gonna make that great of a track. So definitely relax, sit down, and have fun with it, and just see what you can come up with. Evan asked, do you recommend Valhalla reverb or are stock reverbs good enough? I think reverb is actually one of the things that stock plugins don't do that well. There are some decent reverbs in these programs, like Logic has a new one called Chromaverb. That's pretty good. That's a stock plugin. But I think it's worth it if you're serious about producing that you get Valhalla Vintage Verb. I really like that plugin. I mean, it's like the only reverb plugin you should need. You can use it on vocals, synths, drums, whatever you want. So how much time did it take you to actually get to a professional level in music? So I've been working on music for over like 10 years now. Everyone's path to becoming a professional sounding producer is going to be different, and it's going to vary in time. Like I could have probably gotten there faster if I spent more time on it when I was younger, but in college I was always going to parties and hanging out with friends and not working on music that much. It wasn't really until I graduated, which was almost 4 years ago, that I started doing it all the time. So once I graduated college, I started doing it all day, every day. And really that's when I've seen the most improvement, obviously, is since I've been doing it full time. So Mark here is asking about how I equalize and deal with like the stereo spectrum and the low end. I always use a mid-side EQ with FabFilter Pro Q3, and I cut everything off below 150 hertz on the sides. So everything below 150 hertz is just mono in all of my music. Ever dabbled in any other DAWs like Ableton or FL Studio? What made you become a Logic user? I started making music like over 10 years ago on this thing called a Zoom HD16. I'll put a picture of it. It was pretty funny, but there was no like computer involved in that. It was all just on that machine, and that's what I made music on. And I could only have like 16 tracks maximum. After that, I got a Mac laptop and started messing around on GarageBand. So the natural next step to that was just to buy Logic and get more serious about it, because GarageBand kind of sucks. So yeah, I've never really even messed around in other workstations. I've just always used Logic. I've gotten really used to it, and I know all the shortcuts in it. So it's just the fastest way for me to make music. This question is good. Do you mix using monitors or headphones? The short answer is I do both. I mainly mix on the monitors here because I can hear all the sub frequencies from the subwoofer below the desk. But I also use headphones too, so I can hear the mix in different ways. I live in this apartment building and I have neighbors below me and to the sides of me and everything. So I can't always be blasting music. So sometimes I'll do like a rough mix on headphones if I need to, but then I'll always finish it on the monitors. But also you can plug in like iPod headphones and see how the mix sounds on like those shitty iPod earbuds. Just make sure you reference your mix on a few different systems before you bounce it out and send it to all the streaming platforms. I like this question a lot from Mike McGowan. Are there any tools you recommend for diagnosing when a mix is too busy? Whether it's the case that there's too much going on in a certain frequency range or too many elements creating muddiness. What he's asking is, how do you know when you have too much going on? And that's a great question, and it can be hard a lot of times. I think if you listen to a lot of huge pop tracks, you'll notice how simple they are and how few layers and different sounding instruments they have. So I think simplicity is always the goal. And the main way to know if you have too many things going on is just loop a section of your track and then mute certain things. If you're listening to a loop and you mute a layer and you don't really notice that big of a difference, or you're not really missing any extra energy, then you definitely don't need that layer. So go through your track when you're mixing and mute certain things. And if you really don't notice a big difference, You don't need that layer. That's really the only method I use to determine if I have too many things going on. At what point do you realize that a track has potential, or to just can it and move on to something new? This is a great question, because when you finish a track, you've heard it a million times by then, and you're not really listening to it objectively anymore with like a fresh pair of ears. So what I like to do is come up with a lot of different track ideas and finish as many of them as I can, and not listen to them for like a week or two. And then I'll go back with fresh ears. I'll forget what these songs even sound like, and I'll just see which ones I like best. I trust my judgment like 2 weeks later when I forget what the tracks even sound like way more than I do right after I finish the track. Because you know that feeling, right, when you finish a track, you're like, this is the best thing I've ever made, this track is amazing, but you could listen like a week later and be like, damn, this actually sucks. So what I would recommend doing is finishing a song, moving right on to the next one, and keep doing that until you have a bunch of songs, and don't listen to any of them for like a week or two, and come back and pick your favorite ones. And those are the ones you should move on with. Thanks to everyone who submitted a question. It's impossible to get to all of them in this video, but ask them below and I'll get to as many as I can. I'm going to try to get to all of them. So I'll be down in the comments section below. But hopefully you guys enjoyed this one. I'll catch you guys next time. Peace.